Howdy, howdy. This is Jordan Jones with the Writer's Playground, and today I am going to review Do the Right Thing, the companion book to the movie by Spike Lee. Uh, Pretty awesome movie. It is right up there, one of my favorites. And today I'm going to review the introduction. And he references a lot of movies, so I believe that will be the first thing I'm going to do is just mention the movies. And since the intro is only 3 pages long, I'm going to go ahead and just read the whole intro. It's only 3 pages, should be pretty quick. And then share my thoughts on it. And hopefully, through this review series, it'll get people interested in the movie. And you should also get the book too because it's really interesting. You get to see the process from start to finish of him conceptualizing the movie, making it, and also the finished product. So it should be pretty cool. So the movies he references, in no particular order, by the way, we have Tougher Than Leather, Leonard Part 6, Hollywood Shuffle, School Days, Do the Right Thing, obviously, the movie. She's Gotta Have It, White Girl, I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, Daughters of the Dust, Temptation, Identity Crisis, and Coming to America. That last one, everybody should know. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick run through. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Tougher Than Leather is a 1988 movie by Run DMC, directed by Rick Rubin, which the premise is it follows DMC getting released from prison, and then he returns to New York with Jam Master Jay and Run to schedule gigs and basically kickstart their rap careers. Leonard Part 6 is a 1987 American Spy parody directed by Paul Whelan, and it's considered to be one of the worst films ever made. And the story is by Bill Cosby, and it's about a retired CIA spy being called out of retirement to save the world from an evil vegetarian named Medusa Johnson. Yeah, it doesn't sound too good. Shit. Hollywood Shuffle, 1987. 1987, directed by Robert Townsend, starring Eddie Murphy and Robert Townsend, which follows the story of an aspiring actor, Bobby Taylor, as he tries to make it in Hollywood. School Days, really popular one, also directed by Spike Lee in 1988, who produced, wrote, and starred in the film, which stars Larry Fishburne, Giancarlo Esposito. Both of them were also in, or at least Giancarlo Esposito was in Do the Right Thing. Tisha Campbell, Ossie Davis. Actually, they all were in the film. Never mind. Let's see here. It follows Vaughn Dap Dunlap, a political and socially conscious AA student at Mission College, an HBCU in Atlanta. I didn't look up if it was in a fictional HBCU or not, so do your research on that one. And Dap leads an anti-apartheid demonstration on homecoming weekend, which is interesting because my generation, we don't really remember the apartheid, but for the longest time in South Africa, there was an apartheid and a stark separation between the black population, the colored population, and the white population. So that's pretty interesting. She's Gotta Have It. She's Gotta Have It. 1986. Written, directed, and produced by Spike Lee. It stars Tracy Camilla Jones, Tommy Redland Hicks, John Canada Terrell, Spike Lee, and Ray Dow. It follows Nola, a young graphic artist in Brooklyn, juggling 3 suitors as a sexually liberated young woman, which at the time was like super I don't want to say taboo, but just different. Nowadays, with OnlyFans and all that, it's light work. But yeah, but the movie was also, fun fact, selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in 2019. So that's pretty cool. The White Girl, 1990. Produced, written, and directed by Tony Brown, starring Timac, who he was the martial artist in The Last Dragon. Uh, Super good martial artist, freaking jacked, one of those guys. And actress Troy Bayer, a young African American college student who is the daughter of a judge, battles a coke addiction, which is the reason for the movie title, White Girl, which for those who don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't know, white girl is another term for cocaine. So yeah, fun fact if you didn't know that. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, 1988, which is a blaxploitation parody film. It's written and directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans, who's the second oldest of the Wayne family. There's like 10, I think, yeah, 10 family members in total. And it follows soldier Jack Spade returning to the city Any Ghetto, USA, fictional, obviously, after his brother, Junebug, died from overdosing on gold chains. Yeah, you heard that right. Gold chains. He seeks revenge against Mr. Big, the neighborhood chain dealer that sold Junebug said chains. Like gold chains. You guys know what I'm talking about. Daughters of the Dust. This one's a little bit, it's going to take a little more explanation for this one. So Daughters of the Dust is a 1991 independent film written, produced, and directed by Julie Dash. And this one's also registered in the U.S. National Film Registry in the Library of Congress in 2004. So that's cool. Starring Coralie Day, Barbara O, amongst others. And it's set in 1902 among members of the peasant family who are Gula Islanders living at Ebo Landing on Dattall Island, which is St. Simon Island in Glenn County, Georgia. And I had to do a lot more research on this one than the other ones. So basically, there are these islands in Georgia which are home to the Gula community, which are basically African Americans, and they're mainly from the low county of Georgia, Florida, North and South Carolina. And basically, their language and culture have preserved a significant influence of Africanism as a result of historical and geographical isolation. And the community, basically, they have almost their own language, their own culture. It's very different from traditional African American culture, I guess, or just they're different basically. And I want to do a lot more research. I'm probably gonna make a whole separate video on them because I was doing research just for this book, and I basically just skimmed the surface, and it's really interesting. That's good. And once I start traveling, I will definitely make a trip over there because I plan to go visit Atlanta at least once. So, never been. Language and culture have preserved a significant influence of Africanism as a result of historical and geographical isolation and the community's relation to their shared history and identity. Their ancestors were brought centuries ago through slavery, and they speak Gula, which is also known as a Sea Island Creole English. Influences from West Africans of Igbo, Yoruba, Mende, and Twi origin. I hope I said that right. Probably not. As well as Bakongo, which is that's more Central Africa. I dated a girl from Nigeria, so I know Igbo and Yoruba for sure is Nigeria. But the other ones, uh, like I said, I'll probably make a whole another video. And it's narrated by the unborn child of Eli and Eula, showcasing the past, present, and future of the Gula community. So, yeah. And I'll probably do a whole nother video on Daughters of the Dust by itself, because I haven't seen most of these films. I'm just reviewing the book, Do the Right Thing. I've definitely seen that, obviously, but Daughters of the Dust sounds really interesting. And, I mean, if it gets preserved in the Library of Congress, it's got to be worth a whole lot. So, take a deeper dive into that at another date. Next, we have Death by Temptation, 1990, written, directed, and produced by James Bond III, which is a badass name. Stars Samuel L. Jackson, Cynthia Bond, Kadeem Hardison, and Bill Nunn, among others. And it's a horror film about two childhood friends, Joel, played by James Bond, and Kay, the latter of which meets a woman at a bar they visit that is known, colloquially as the Temptress, played by Cynthia Bond, who is a serial killer that kills the men she sleeps with at the bar. Which, that sounds interesting. That's another movie that I'm probably going to watch soon. Maybe even tonight. Identity Crisis, 1989. Comedy written and produced by Mevin Van Peebles. And written and starring Marion Van Peebles. Oh, excuse me. Mario Van Peebles, who's the son of Melvin, the director. Melvin narrates the film. The director, he narrates the film. Yves Malmaison, Richard, played by Richard Fancy, is a world-famous French designer who is gay but experiments with a woman and has a son, Sebastian. He's played by Elon Michael Smith. Character Chili D is a struggling rapper who steals Malmaison's dresses and redesigns them for his girlfriend, that's pretty interesting. It's an interesting way of repurposing gifts, I guess. Just steal some dresses and redo them. But like, hey, babe, I made this shit. It's fire. And, that's some imagination for you. Sebastian, so the original designer, is poisoned at a fashion show, and Chili D is pursued by the poisoners. Through a turn of events, both Sebastian and Chili D's souls are trapped in the same body of Chili D. And I'm going to have to watch the movie before I dive into that more, because there's a whole lot going on there. So, Coming to America, which is going to be the last one, and I'm sure most of you have seen Coming to America, or at least have heard about it. Come on now. 1988, which is a rom-com directed by John Landis, produced by David Sheffield and Barry W. Blaustein, written by Eddie Murphy, starring Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, John Amos, Madge Dorita Sinclair, and Sherry Headley, among others. Follows the story of priest Akeem Jaffer, which is Eddie Murphy's character, from the wealthy and fictional African nation of Zamunda, who gets sick of his wealthy lifestyle. His parents, King Jaff and Queen Auline, set him up with an arranged bride-to-be who he has no connection to. He decides to go to New York with his best friend / personal aide, the character played by Arsenio Hall, to Queens, New York of all places, under the not a shot at New York. Queens people don't come after me. They just picked a random place. They just picked Queens. So, under the guise of poor Ford students, they meet a woman at a rally to raise money for the They meet a woman at a rally to raise money for the inner city and meet the woman Lisa McDowell, who's played by Cher Headley, and decide to work at her father's fast food restaurant, McDowell's, which is, obviously a spin-off of, McDonald's, owned by Cleo McDowell, who's John Amos's character. And yeah, most of you guys should know. Coming to America. That's like one of the most popular films. So, all right, now I'm going to read the introduction, and then I will share my thoughts afterwards. So I'll try and make this quick. Last fall, I went to the world premiere of Tougher Than Leather, the Run DMC film. It was a disappointment. I went wanting to like the film, but I must admit, expecting the worst. I say expecting the worst because Russell Simmons, president of Def Jam Records and Run DMC's manager, had given me the script a while back and asked me to direct it. I read it and politely declined. The script was a reworking of the blaxploitation genre. For those who don't know, blaxploitation is kind of like it was like a genre back in the day, like in the 70s, 80s, like these stereotypes of black culture, and yeah, that is another one that deserves a whole nother video to get into, because it's a big genre and kind of flamed out like the 80s, 90s. Last film that I can remember, it was blaxploitation, was kind of a parody of it, which was Black Dynamite, and Michael Jai White was in that, and that was a great movie. That was awesome. Where was I? Okay. And tell you the truth, I never went to those films. Never liked them. Run, D, and Jam Master Jay spent the entire film running around and shooting people. I certainly didn't want to be responsible for any more black youth killing each other. The real failure of the project, in my eyes, is that the black producers chose record producer Rick Rubin, a white man with no film experience, to co-write and direct, which, in my opinion, I guess was just attaching his name to the project, maybe. That's the only reason I could think to get someone with no film experience to direct a movie. So, there are too many talented young black filmmakers out here who need a break to justify handing the project over to a person of any race who doesn't have the necessary experience. Not just anyone can make a good film. Very true. Film is not to be played with. It must be our most powerful medium and should treat it as such. Which I also agree with, because it's kind of like how they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. Well, movies are just moving pictures, and they just capture attention so well. So I definitely agree with him on that. And movies are just a great way to tell a story. Like recently I saw the name escapes me right now. I'll probably remember it in a little bit. But went to the movies with my dad recently and saw the film about a black pilot that fought in the Korean War, and he ended up his plane got shot. He started leaking fuel, so he had to crash land somewhere in the Korean mountains, and ended up getting trapped in his plane. And his partner, who's also an amazing man, white guy, ended up crash landing his plane too in the same area, just so he can try and save his friend. And he didn't end up making it, the black pilot. He was trapped in fuselage. Another guy who knew the African American pilot ended up flying his helicopter into the area, and they both tried to save him, couldn't do it, so they ended up having to leave. And his body was never recovered, and I think they're still looking for it to this day. I believe they said in 2013, North Korea gave them permission to try and go look for him, but They still haven't found his body, and I doubt they ever will. But that was just a really interesting story, and it's kind of one of those things where, like, unless you're like me and you really like to read, like, you might not pick up the book and read about this amazing man's story. But when you watch the movie, it captures your attention immediately. And yeah, all that to say, yeah, movies are definitely a very powerful medium and a very powerful way of storytelling. So, yeah. Now, wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm not suggesting that I'm the only person in the world qualified to make a film. If it were up to me, there would be 100 Robert Townsends and Spike Lees cranking out films. In fact, the continuity of black cinema is only assured if it is bigger than 2 or 3 individuals who are getting play now, which brings me to my next point. As a few of us have made our way into the cutthroat film industry, something disturbing has happened. I see factions emerging: the Eddie Murphy camp, Robert Townsend camp, Keenan Wayne's camp, and the Spike Lee camp. I've had actors and producers, people come up to me and say that they were turned down for a job because they were considered to be down with me, Spike Lee camp, which is stupid. Like, it, especially with the black community, like, y'all, we ought to just work together, man. Like, you can't be like, oh, you're down with him, I can't be down with you because I'm down with him. No, everybody needs to be down with each other. Like, come on now. That's just stupid. There's no need to point fingers or name names, but this kind of backward thinking is going to hurt us all in the long run. Yeah, just yeah. Now more than ever, we have to join forces. That's not to say we have to make the same films and agree on everything. Not at all. Each of us has a distinct voice, our own stories to tell. Earlier this year, Robert Townsend and I were on a panel organized by the Black Media Entertainment Association out in Los Angeles. The discussion got around to Bill Cosby and the flop, Leonard Part 6. That was a movie that was voted one of the worst of all time. We discussed whether or not Cosby was responsible for how the film turned out, which, fun fact, in a smart move, Cosby disassociated himself with the movie, like, towards the end. He knew, he was like, oh, this is trash. Robert and I had a big disagreement before an audience of 500. I felt it was a healthy argument, aired for everybody to hear and make up their own minds. Evidently, people misconstrued this as a rift between us. Not true. And that's another point I want to touch on too. People should be able to have healthy disagreements or debates, arguments, if you will. I just think it's a debate about certain things, and you don't have to always see eye to eye with people. Like, you can agree to disagree, you can flesh out ideas, and it doesn't mean you hate the other person or there's beef. Like, sometimes you just don't see eye to eye on something, and it's healthy to talk things out as long as it's in a healthy way and you're not, like, screaming and yelling at each other. But there should be room for, give and take, pushback. You should be able to adequately defend your ideas or, flesh out ideas or, what have you. Anywho, where was I? When Hollywood Shuffle was released, I must have been asked a million times by folks just trying to start some SHIT for my opinion on the film. I like the film and have even used Robert's line, doing the nasty, in School Days, and Do the Right Thing. And I don't know if I said it, but he's talking about Hollywood Shuffle. I was happy that another brother had cracked the feature film nut. There should be, and will be, many more black directors, male and female, besides us. The most recent one to pop out and kind of shine a star or shine his light on the world is Jordan Peele, and I must have watched Get Out like 4 or 5 times. Just and Nope at least half a dozen times. So kudos to that brother. Since Hollywood Shuffle and She's Gotta Have It, we have Tony Brown's White Girl and Keenan Wayne's I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. And in production, Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust, James Bond III's Temptation, and Melvin Van Peebles' Identity Crisis. His name's really hard to say, I'm just saying. Let's not forget Coming to America, which I think was a serious move by Eddie Murphy to do a film by and about black people, and made us look really good too. Black audiences are starving for films by and about us. Every day one of our films should be in the marketplace. God forbid if Eddie Murphy stopped selling tickets. Would this mean no more black films would see the light of day? Hell no, we can't let that happen. There has to be a succession. We can't let this activity stop. Those of us who are producing now can't be threatened by new black talent. We should embrace it. No matter how bad you are, whether you're an athlete, musician, writer, or actor, sooner or later, a new Jack is going to pop out of nowhere and be a badder motherfucker. Probably should have said mofo, but whatever. That's all there is to it. It's a law of nature. I know for a fact that there are some black film students out there studying my ish. In the next couple of years, they'll scrape together a few pennies, bust out with their own joint, and smoke Hollywood Shuffle and She's Gotta Have It combined. I don't see it as a threat. I welcome it for the sake of black cinema. The following is a record of what had to be done to get the third feature film I have produced in 4 years in the can. You will see how a script is developed, how deals are made, how production problems are surmounted, and I hope to further demystify the filmmaking process. Film is no hocus pocus magic stuff. That's what Hollywood wants you to believe so you don't attempt to tell your own stories. Do the Right Thing is my most political film to date. At the same time, I think it's my most humorous. Each time out, I have tried to make the best movie possible. But with the film, it's always a roll of the dice. Please God, no snake eyes for Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee, Brooklyn, New York. And he touched on a lot of interesting things there. I think I said it a little bit earlier, but yes, black people, black directors, black actors, actresses, musicians, we all gotta work together. It can't be. Obviously, competition is there. Most people are competitive, but there's such a thing as healthy competition, and then just hating. That's the best way to put it. Just hating, and it's like if somebody you're in competition with does well, you have to celebrate them. Can't be a hater. Also, another thing I said before, just film as a form of storytelling is very powerful. And I like how he says here, let me see, I hope to further demystify the filmmaking process. Film is no hocus pocus magic stuff, which is very true. A lot of problems arise on set. You're going to have shooting delays, you can have the dynamic between different actors and actresses. You're gonna have budgeting issues, just all types of stuff, equipment issues. So I really like how he touches on that, how it's not just like, oh, I'm announcing this movie and then boom, movie done, and it just goes out to the people. Like, it is a process. So I really like that. Next video, we are going to get into his actual journal, and I'll probably break that up into parts because the journal is long. It actually encompasses the process of making the movie, and it includes, it's interesting, it actually includes parts of the script or parts of the story, some of which don't even make it into the movie. Sometimes he'll tweak this or tweak that. So I really like it. This is probably my favorite part of the book because you just kind of get to see an artist's process and how he works through things. So look forward to that. That's going to be it for me. I'm going to quit talking your ear off, and y'all have a good day. I'm out.